Many policies have a suicide clause that limits the payment of benefits. Suicide in the United States is the 10th leading cause of death. Though life insurance can provide coverage in case of suicide, many policies have special provisions that limit the payment of benefits. This has always seemed to be a burning question that many wonder, even today. Will life insurance pay due to suicide? We're going to discuss that, whether it will, whether it won't, and all of the above. I'm Cynthia, the Real Insurance Agent. On our channel, we will review history about insurance. We will debunk any myths that you may have heard about insurance, including this provision about suicide. We will tell the truth about insurance and how it may have affected certain communities in creating wealth transfer opportunities while all discussing insurance. Please subscribe to our channel so that you're notified that when we bring new videos, which will be every week. Listen, you don't want to miss any of the valuable information, I promise you. So, in insurance, there is a suicide clause in most policy. So you ask the question, how does the suicide clause work? Is there any truth to it paying? Will it flat out not pay if a family member, a friend, or anyone commits suicide while having life insurance? Insurance companies, apparently, they want to prevent people from having a financial incentive to taking their own lives. So that is why many life insurance policies have a suicide clause, also known as a suicide provision, and is there to help prevent or possibly prolong the thought of an individual committing suicide to benefit their family. Now, as defined in the suicide clause, it states that insurance company would typically not pay a death benefit if the covered person dies by suicide within the first 2 years of coverage, commonly known as the exclusion period. Now, when the exclusion period ends, the policy beneficiary can receive a death benefit if the covered person dies by the suicide after that date. After that date. So, suicide provision can always vary according to the type of coverage that you have. So, you also have to be mindful of that. That's why I always share with my insurers to read your policies. Okay. Now, you take group life insurance. Unlike most individual life insurance policies, many group life policies, the kind of life insurance that people often get through their employers, do not have a suicide clause. Typically, they don't, but read that so that you can find out. If a covered person dies as a result of a suicide, their benefits would typically pay out the death to their beneficiary. Now, you take a term life insurance. With individual term life insurance, beneficiaries can claim the death benefit as long as the exclusion period has ended. If the person dies after the policy has been in effect for 1 to 2 years, the beneficiaries are entitled to the full benefit. Okay, so it depends on what that provision clause reads. But if the person dies during the exclusion period, the beneficiaries might receive only the premiums that they paid up to that date. Now, you take a whole life insurance policy, the beneficiaries might receive the plan's cash value even if the covered person dies during the exclusion period. So when the exclusion period ends, the beneficiaries can receive the full death benefit and cash value. Now, how does an insurance company even know if someone died by suicide? Someone may ask. When a policyholder dies and their beneficiary files a claim, the insurance company will request a death certificate. And in the death certificate, it will be described the cause of death. And it will also note if the person's death was self-inflicted. So now, if the death certificate is inconclusive or includes a questionable cause of death, the insurance company may require different additional information, such as an autopsy reports or a person's medical records, anything to help support the claim that has been reported. So, because deaths by suicide, it typically takes longer to investigate than your typical regular death. Okay, so you may experience a delay in receiving the insurance policy's benefit. Now, while the claims process, in a suicide is more complex and time consuming, I still say don't wait. File the claim so that the process can get going. Okay. Now, some key takeaways from today is this: many life insurance policies does contain a suicide clause or provision. Companies will typically not pay a death benefit if the policyholder commits suicide within the first 1 to 2 years that the policy is in force. Read your policy on that to find out what your suicide clause or provision actually states. Changing a policy can restart the suicide exclusion period. Okay. And insurance companies may request additional documentation if they suspect suicide as a cause of death. So here you have it, the answer to if suicide is a covered loss on a life insurance policy. So the answer is yes, and then you have the answer being no. Yes, if it has reached over that provision, and no, if it has not. So now you have it. So if you would like to know more about insurance and anything pertaining to, contact us. This is Cynthia Scott, the Real Insurance Agent, while keeping everything about insurance real to you so that you understand it, so that you get clarity and get truth. Cynthia Scott with Cynthia Scott Insurance Agency, your real insurance agent.